It is late at night, and the world has finally gone quiet. But your mind has not. The glow of your phone lights up your face as you scroll without purpose, searching for something you cannot quite name. Emails unanswered, messages left unread, expectations stacking quietly in the background like a weight you can feel but cannot see. You tell yourself you will rest soon, but the moment you put the phone down, the noise inside grows louder. Thoughts about work, about relationships, about everything that feels just slightly out of your control begin to circle. You feel like you are moving all day, yet somehow going nowhere. You wake up tired, carry the tension through your hours, and fall back into the same restless cycle at night. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from effort, but from resistance, from trying to manage things that were never yours to manage, from replaying conversations that already ended, from anticipating problems that have not yet arrived. And in this constant tension, your mind becomes a battlefield where nothing is ever fully resolved. You are present everywhere except where your feet actually are. Now imagine, for a moment, a man who lived nearly 2,000 years ago, ruling an empire at war, surrounded by uncertainty, betrayal, illness, and death. A man who carried responsibilities far heavier than most of us could imagine. And yet, he wrote quietly to himself, not in grand speeches, but in simple reflections. He reminded himself, again and again, to remain calm, to remain steady, to remain human in the middle of chaos. That man was Marcus Aurelius. What is remarkable is not that his life was difficult, it is that his inner world remained clear despite it. While everything around him shifted and broke and demanded his reaction, he built something within that could not be easily shaken. Not a wall of indifference, but a kind of grounded clarity, a stillness that allowed him to move through storms without becoming the storm itself. And that is where his wisdom reaches across centuries and finds you, sitting here in the quiet glow of your screen, carrying a different kind of empire inside your own mind. The first principle Marcus understood is simple, but not easy. Some things are within your control, and many things are not. Most of your suffering comes from confusing the two. Think about how much of your day is spent reacting. A message that feels colder than expected, a colleague's tone that seems dismissive, a post online that makes you question your own progress. None of these events directly harm you, yet they create ripples inside your mind that expand far beyond their original size. You replay them, you analyze them, you build entire narratives around them. Marcus would say that the event itself is neutral. It is your judgment about the event that creates the disturbance. Imagine your workplace. A deadline changes suddenly, and now your carefully planned schedule collapses. The immediate reaction is frustration, maybe even anger. But the reality is that the change itself is simply a fact. It is your resistance to the change that creates the emotional storm. When you tell yourself that this should not be happening, that it is unfair, that it disrupts your control, you begin to suffer not from the event, but from your interpretation of it. The Stoic approach is not to suppress emotion, but to question it, to pause and ask, what exactly is within my control right now? Not yesterday's decision, not someone else's behavior, only this moment, and your response to it. This shift is subtle, but powerful. It turns life from something that happens to you into something you participate in consciously. The storm may still rage outside, but you begin to recognize that you are not the storm. You are the one observing it, choosing how to move through it. The second principle is the idea of the inner fortress. Marcus wrote about building a space within the mind that remains untouched by external chaos, not by escaping reality, but by refusing to let every external event dictate your internal state. In modern life, this is perhaps more difficult than ever. You are constantly connected. News travels instantly. Opinions flood your attention. Comparisons are available at any moment. It becomes easy to feel like your sense of self is shaped by everything you see and hear. You wake up and check your phone, and within minutes, you are pulled into other people's lives, other people's successes, other people's expectations. Before you have even fully entered your own day, your mind has already been influenced by countless external signals. Marcus would remind you that your mind is your own domain. No one enters it without your permission. Consider social media. You scroll through images of people who seem more successful, more confident, more fulfilled. Without noticing, you begin to measure your own life against theirs. A quiet dissatisfaction starts to grow, but the comparison itself is not inevitable. It is a habit, one that can be interrupted. The inner fortress is built by recognizing that you can see without absorbing. You can observe without internalizing. You can acknowledge the world without allowing it to define your worth. This does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging with it from a place of stability rather than reactivity. It means that your sense of value is not decided by a number on a screen or a fleeting opinion. It is grounded in something quieter, something more consistent. When you cultivate this inner space, you begin to notice a shift. Situations that once triggered immediate reactions now feel less urgent. You create a gap between what happens and how you respond, and in that gap, you find freedom. The third principle is acceptance, not as resignation, but as alignment with reality. Marcus believed that much of our distress comes from wishing the world were different than it is. We argue with reality, and in doing so, we create unnecessary suffering. Think about a moment when things did not go according to plan. A project failed, a relationship ended, an opportunity disappeared. The initial pain is natural, but what often follows is a prolonged resistance. You replay the situation, imagining how it could have been different. You hold on to a version of reality that no longer exists. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is not saying that everything is good. It is recognizing that everything simply is. When you stop arguing with what has already happened, you free up energy that was previously trapped in resistance. You can begin to ask a different question. Not why did this happen, but what can I do now? Imagine a career setback. You worked hard for a promotion, and it went to someone else. The mind immediately creates a story of injustice, of failure, of being overlooked, and those thoughts may linger for weeks, even months, but the situation itself does not change. The only thing that changes is how long you remain entangled in it. Marcus would encourage you to meet the situation as it is, to acknowledge the disappointment, but not to build your identity around it, to see it as one moment in a much larger story. This perspective does not remove difficulty, but it transforms it. It allows you to move forward without carrying unnecessary weight. Now, these ideas are powerful, but they only become meaningful when they are lived. So let us bring them into something practical, something you can begin today. The first habit is a simple pause. Before reacting to anything that triggers you, take one breath and ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, Practice letting go, even if only slightly. If the answer is yes, focus only on what you can actually influence. This creates a small but important shift from reaction to intention. The second habit is a daily reset. At some point each day, step away from all external input. No phone, no noise, no distractions. Sit quietly for a few minutes and observe your thoughts without engaging with them. This is how you begin to build that inner fortress, not by force, but by familiarity with your own mind. The third habit is reframing. At the end of each day, reflect on one situation that challenged you. Instead of replaying it with frustration, ask yourself how a Stoic might view it. What was outside your control? What was within it? And how might you respond differently next time? This practice slowly rewires the way you interpret your experiences. None of these habits require perfection. They require consistency. Small, repeated shifts that gradually reshape the way you move through your life. And over time, something changes. The world does not become easier. Deadlines still come. People still disappoint. Plans still fall apart. But you begin to feel less shaken by it all. Not because you have become indifferent, but because you have become anchored. You start to notice that calm is not something you find when life becomes quiet. It is something you cultivate even when life is loud. It is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of clarity within it. Marcus Aurelius did not have control over the chaos of his world, but he had control over how he met it, and in that, he found a kind of freedom that no external condition could take away. Maybe tonight, as you put your phone down and the silence returns, you will notice your thoughts beginning to rise again, but instead of being pulled into them, you might simply observe them. You might remind yourself that not everything requires your reaction, that not everything deserves your energy. And in that small moment of awareness, you begin to build something steady within yourself. If this resonates with you, carry it gently into your next day, not as a rule to follow perfectly, but as a perspective to return to when things feel overwhelming, and when the noise begins again, as it always does. Remember that you can always come back to this place.